You likely also cannot wait for June 25th, right? When we finally get some new Cyberpunk 2077 gameplay. Well, now before this Night City Wire, we actually had some new interesting info thanks to a German podcast posted by GameStar. They namely had some CD Projekt Red developers on that shared some very interesting details, and thanks to Moriex on Reddit for translating it and putting it also on the site. One piece of info was mistranslated, but I will touch on that to make it all clear. A like on the video would be super appreciated, and let's go. If you follow the channel for a while, then you know that there's a June giveaway going on for a 2020 game of your choice. All you need to do is follow the link in the pinned comment for a chance to win. Be a subscriber of the channel as well before you enter to be able to win, and I will email the winner in early July. And yes, you can win Cyberpunk 2077 if you want, and some people actually already got the game with the special Xbox One X bundle. Yeah, of course, it unlocks on September 17th, you can't play it yet. And now we also learned that if you get this limited edition bundle, that you actually get the first DLC expansion when it's available for no extra cost. So that is sweet, and I would not be surprised if the first DLC was already announced or hinted at this Night City Wire event. We namely recently learned that the DLC will be at least as large as we saw for The Witcher 3. Yes, please. And also that they would announce them before launch, and this stream would of course be a perfect moment, although they could save the information for closer to the release. And we already knew that Cyberpunk 2077 is much shorter than The Witcher 3, but in return more complexly layered, so there are more ways to approach the same situation, and replaying missions could really lead to completely different scenes and outcomes. And now, during that German podcast, it was actually noted that you have about 3 times as much ways to solve a mission than in The Witcher 3. And actually only you dying is stopping the mission. So apart from that, it will just keep on going. And the example they mentioned is that you can decide to run away during a fight and then buy a hamburger, for example, if that is what you want. I'm not sure if this confirms eating, maybe just an item that appears in your inventory, but yeah, having these missions continue while you are just out doing things will of course help create this living world. And the daily routines of NPCs will also help with that you can really follow them around and see that they're actually doing different things depending on the time of day, and just feel more like living beings instead of filler for an open world to make it look more crowded. CD Projekt Red now notes that they are planning to improve this, so what The Witcher did with giving more than 1,000 NPCs a handmade routine. And this sounds awesome. And you bet that I will be following some NPCs around to see what they are up to, and this will just create a way more believable world to get lost in. What also sounds great are the improvements made to the melee parts of the game. The melee fight system shown in the E3 trailer was not really where they wanted it, so expect some big improvements there. And I think they are referring to the nanowire we saw briefly in the footage, something a netrunner can use to hack into enemies from a distance, but also can be used in combat. And as I highlighted in my previous video, we also know that the hammer from the animal leader that was taken out is actually something we can get as a reward from this boss. So then we have a huge hammer to walk around with. We saw katanas already in the weapon room, so likely indicating that those will be weapons we can use too. And of course in that same gameplay demo they used the mantis blades as a powerful ability, and those look absolutely brutal. But overall, like, they mostly focused on the gun combat, although I'm sure that they want to showcase these improvements during the Night City Wire on June 25th, so totally expect some melee combat there. Both the gameplay deep dives that we saw up to this point highlighted a mission, and CD Projekt Red now notes on this German podcast that they have no rules for quest design. Like, one common thing for side missions is that the quest objective has to be close to the quest giver, so you do not have to travel across the map to get there. In Cyberpunk, we already saw in both demos that it's pretty common to use a vehicle to get to a certain place. So having the quest objective pretty far away from the quest giver can happen in this game, and overall they just want a quest to be good and expand on that idea and implant it, so likely not have those rules hold it back. And when they fully finish a quest, they just do not put it aside and work on the next mission. No, they keep playing it over and over again until the game releases, because they might find something to fix or improve. And that's a tactic they used during the development of The Witcher as well. And overall, they also do not want to have similar elements during missions return all the time, like the Witcher side was really used a lot in The Witcher 3. So from the sounds of it, missions in this game should be way more diverse. And I really like how they look at feedback from their previous games and then try to improve upon it in their next game, even if it's not in the same franchise. But overall, they also really want to improve the open world genre from the sounds of it. And one common thing in open world games are of course many icons on the map. Assassin's Creed Unity is absolutely the best example of this. Like, every square meter had another icon that you could interact with. And The Witcher 3 had quite a lot of them as well. And that is something they want to step away from in Cyberpunk. Because then some players want to complete every single map icon, and that doesn't seem to be something they want. So I don't think we should expect an overwhelming amount of stuff on the map, but hopefully really things that you just find when exploring without obvious indications at first. And we will of course have the big Night City to explore, with 6 districts that all should look and feel different. Pacifica was the focus last year. That was supposed to be a paradise, but they never really finished it, and now it's taken over by gangs. While for example the city center district is more the luxury location with a ton of corporations, and I'm sure that if you choose the corporate life path at the start of the game, that this district will be a huge part of your identity. While Street Kid is more in line with Pacifica, and during the E3 2019 demo we actually saw that being a street kid during quests inside this region give you some nice extra dialogue choices that can open up completely different conversations, because you're on the same level as the character you're talking to, like you have the same background and experience. But if you choose Nomad at the start of the game, then it will likely be easier to explore the Badlands, because choosing this life path gives you the background of someone who lived on the road. And we of course briefly saw the Badlands that are outside Night City in the small footage they showcased for the Mad Max inspired Reaver custom built car that is a variation of the Quadra Type 66 vehicle. And we already saw a small look at the map briefly in the footage, and also in an image from the World of Cyberpunk 2077 Deluxe Edition book. And that one is actually launching on July 14th, so before the game is out. Could give some interesting info before the launch for sure. No, but apart from the 6 districts and the Badlands, we also have cyberspace as another location in the game that we actually also got teased at the end of last year's trailer. And we see Fee connect to this after finding Brigitte, and that was of course the main goal of that mission. So in the Cyberpunk 2020 tabletop game, where this video game from CD Projekt Red is based on, this cyberspace would really be like a Skyrim meets Tron. There are weapons like in a fantasy RPG, like if you can summon a lich with a cape who burns out the evil hacker. It's basically a fantasy RPG in a high-tech environment. And that sounds awesome, but it's not something we should expect in Cyberpunk 2077. Something that some people thought at first, but the devs were just expressing their nostalgic interest in the tabletop game. Cyberspace should still be very interesting. CD Projekt Red describes it as an extremely dark, grim place from the past. It's a past that has been divided by the Black Wall, and we saw so many netrunners in the room here helping V connect to the cyberspace. And that's actually because these netrunners are needed to protect the person that is going into cyberspace. So you can access cyberspace in specific story moments, as we saw in the gameplay deep dive, and in some cases you can explore it. So really curious what the gameplay inside cyberspace will be. And overall, Cyberpunk should have way more vertical exploration too, so it might not be the biggest open world map we've ever seen, but it will have skyscrapers with multiple floors that we can all explore. It's going to be a massive game and I really can't wait to get into it. So subscribe to miss nothing regarding Cyberpunk 2077. I will make a ton of videos about the Night City Wire with all the info we got, so totally keep it locked for that. A like on this video would be super appreciated, and totally check out my most recent Cyberpunk video talking about new details we got regarding the factions and way more. For now, I will speak to you next time, and goodbye.